So the bowls I threw in the last video, they're finished drying. I've left them maybe 2 days. 2 days covered in plastic, and then I flipped them as soon as the rim was dry enough to withstand the weight. I think I might have forgotten to cut this one, but it just popped off the back quite easily and left a smooth surface. Sometimes with some forms you can do that and not have to trim it and just like round off the edges, and then that's it. So I flipped them over just so that the base would dry, because it's a lot thicker. For example, this one here, it's probably about this thick, the base, which I did on purpose because I need to save room for foot ring. And this one's quite similar, where probably around that area, like where the line is, that's the base of the inside, and then I'll probably keep most of that, but just clean it up and trim a ring. Where this one, it's actually quite thick, but this is quite nice already. Like this is the second one I did where the bottom is quite flat, so you can see there where it goes in, and then there's a sharp corner. For this, maybe I think I'll still put a ring on it, but a fairly wide one, maybe about that much. But there's not much to do with this, which is nice. This is surprisingly dry, so maybe I'll start with this. Like with the porcelain, I prefer to let them dry a bit slower, and I always cover them in plastic. That way they have time to equalize. At this stage it's not too bad. Like if the rim is a bit dry, that's alright. It's probably not a bad thing, since when you're trimming, it'll protect its form a bit better. So I'm just going to center this. Yeah, so just pretty standard method right now. I'm just going to secure it with 3 lumps of clay. I've been meaning to buy a bit of foam. Do I have it here? So this sort of foam, but this one's too small. So I want to get a big one that I can cut out and stick onto a bat and use that as my trimming. Because with shapes like this, I don't really need to secure it that much. And with the foam, it will hold it in place as long as I keep pressure on it. In terms of trimming tool, I've got these guys, which are from Bison in America. So they're tungsten instead of steel. So I've got another one. Yeah, so these are nice, and the handles are really good. Like the type of handle means that I don't have to hold it too tight. It's quite secure easily, and because they're quite sharp, they tend to chatter quite easily. So what was I going to do? I'm going to do a ring about, let's see, it's going to be quite a shallow ring, so I think the outside will be about there, and then the inside will be about, start off a bit thicker, but I might change that afterwards. And the edge is quite sharp, so I'm just going to keep that same sort of angle. I'm just going to take a bit off this edge to start off with. I'm just going to clean up this corner. And then I'll flatten it. So that's as far as I'll go, because I know the base is not that thick. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of a rounded corner here. The clay is probably a little bit on the wet side still. So I'm being really conscious not to trim too much. Alright, now I'm just going to clean this up. And then I'll do the inside. I'll get the inside to be about the same height as the outside, I think. Just because I know that the inside is quite level. With a foot ring, basically, you want it to look like the shape continues and then you just plonk the ring on top of it. So if it's a bowl, then the inside should still be rounded and not a completely flat surface. Yeah, especially the middle, it's definitely a little bit too wet still. Alright, so just making sure there's no bits and pieces stuck to the bottom. Sometimes the trimming gets stuck and then it gets embedded into it. And then now that that's done, I don't have a stamp yet, so I'm just gonna scratch my initial into it for now. And just cleaning up the rim a bit, sometimes it gets stuck as well. If there's any like little marks, you can always just get a damp sponge and then just give it a little brush. So yeah. Alright. So it's usually a good idea just to get a good look at the inside shape, just so you know what the plan of trimming is. So this one's quite shallow. Oh, quite deep actually, sorry. So I can trim a lot of the corners off and then just do quite a small foot ring. Maybe about that much. Alright. So again, I'm just going to start off with marking where the foot's going to be. Don't want to be too small. Maybe I'll just start somewhere here. And then the inside I always make the inside, I always make it a bit wider to start off with, because I can always thin it out if I have to. It's usually easier to use corners to take off big chunks, like the tip, to take off big chunks of clay. It's chattering already. Another benefit of trimming with a foam pad instead of having clay on the side is that I can do all the way along the edge and not just the, I guess, bottom half of the pot. And that means you can smooth out the overall surface a lot better. Like, this is quite smooth from where I'm trimming, and then you can still see all the throwing lines down along the rim. So there's quite a lot to take out here. This little corner. Try and keep quite a straight profile. Yeah. I would say this is just the right amount of dryness on the pot, since all the trimming's coming out quite smoothly. You get these really nice ribbons. So yeah, because I've been quite aggressive with this corner here, I'm going to have to blend it in to the bottom. So I'm going to try and trim it without the clay support on the side. And then now just finishing off the actual foot itself. And baffle the corners. Some people go a bit to create a channel on the outside of the foot. That way if the glaze drips, it gets caught there instead of going all the way down, which could be handy. And sometimes, instead of flipping it over, I just put like a little bat. Gives me an idea of how flat it is. Okay. And sometimes, if you want a really smooth finish, you can always almost sand it down with a little bit of either sponge or a little fabric. Even your finger will work. You just put a bit of water on it. It depends on the design. Sometimes it's good, sometimes you don't really need it. I almost feel like this is a bit stumpy. I'm just going to double check the inside. So we'll see how much material I've got to work with. Yeah, so there's still a bit of clay there, which means I can trim the corner down a little bit more so I get a taller foot. All this trimming will end up getting recycled. Like this bowl was thrown with porcelain that I recycled from before. I'm just taking out more here. I think that should be the right height. Yeah, I think that's going to feel a lot better. Might make it more of a right angle. And now I just need to do the same with the inside. So take out the ball of clay with this, and then and that's pretty good. And I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit, especially the inside. And that's it. I won't do that yet because I want to try and get this to blend a little bit better. Alright, so that's nice. This needs to be blended, so I'm just going to try. It might not work, to be honest. Keeping a fair amount of pressure on the top, but not just on the middle, because that's going to be, you don't want to push through it. And the further out away from the center you're trimming, the more pressure, or the more it fights back. So I'm just letting the pot push the trimming tool because I don't want to apply too much pressure onto it. do need to get a stamp made soon. It'll look a lot better. Can't really see the side here. That might be better. And then, so the inside I haven't touched, so it's still the same. And then just a little foot. Just giving a feel to see the wall's pretty even. The bottom is probably a little bit on the thick side, but that's alright. It's not too bad. Yeah. I wonder if this is going to fit. Yeah, this could work. So I'm just going to do one without extra clay as support, just to show the difference. But you want something like this. Basically, this is called a Batman. That's just a chamois. That's a little bit damp, and that just helps stick things down. It won't be as narrow as that last one. We'll start out somewhere there. So if you're doing it this way with the foam, it needs a lot more pressure from above, just to keep everything from sliding off. Okay, this little chatter. It's also gone. It's good to check every now and then because things might have moved. It might not be centered. So I still want a fairly tall kind of foot ring. So I'm going to take off a little bit more here. There's a bit of chattering here. So try to get rid of it. It's getting worse. Yeah, I wouldn't go too much thinner here. It's about thick, I'd say. So it gets a little bit trickier because you want to hold the pressure, but you still want to trim the middle. So I'll just leave the very center till last and get most of the bottom of the ring done first. So instead of using a flat area, I'm going to use a corner because the sharpness helps move the clay out of the way. And then just even it back out. Marking it again. And that's it. Alright. There's actually enough clay. Alright, so I'm just going to show you what this looks like now. That foot ring is not tall enough. And I just realized the corner around here, it's probably still twice as thick as the rim. So I'm just going to open this up and thin this part out just so it matches that, and then that way the foot ring can be almost twice as tall as it is now. I was a bit worried about trimming through it, but now that I had a look, it's actually not too bad. Actually, let's test this one. Is it bouncing? Yeah, that's not gonna work. You can see how lumpy that is. And then the foot ring's gone quite uneven. Like it's usable, but it's not good enough to keep, which I actually quite enjoy doing this. Whoops. Whenever I get a pot that I'm not happy with, or that I definitely won't keep, I always cut it just to have a quick look. So the wall is not bad, even like thickness wise. You can see that the bottom here is a little bit thicker than I would like. I think it's nice when the bottom and the walls are the same thickness, but overall it's not too bad. So this just goes into the recycle bin. Yeah, so 2 out of 3. It's not the worst that could happen. That's alright. I mean, it's pottery, so things like this happens all the time. And with practice, the success rate tends to go up. But actually, this is pretty... I really like this. It's a little bit on the small side. So this was 450 gram. And I think now, actually... So this started off as a 450 gram ball of clay. And now that it's trimmed, it's 330 grams. So it's lost quite a bit. That's mostly from the trimming, and when you throw it, obviously, clay goes everywhere. And the water that came out of the clay also reduces its weight. And this is 270. So what was that other one again? Wow. So this came out a lot thinner. But remember, this was quite wide to start off with, so there was a lot more trimming happening to this than there was to this. I just made a dent on the rim. My nail stuck into it. Quite happy with it. I'll definitely fire those two. And this one gets recycled.